Monday morning. And if you are out there, jump on. I've got some pretty cool stuff to share this morning in the Conscious Chatter. So I'll give you a minute. It's quite a grim day, isn't it, out there from a weather perspective. I guess I'm going to hit it off with, at the moment, like at this very point in time, that do the work to bring in your alignment, because the energies are insane right now. And I've labeled today's chit chat, Gemma Gee in her PhD talk, around how do you create the reality that you want. And I'm so passionate to share this information, because I know there's so many people seeking at the moment and trying to make sense of our realities and the changes that we are seeing on a global scale. So first of all, in order to even get an idea of how to create the reality that you want, there's a few things that we need to understand about us as beings. So let me rattle it off. I've got some notes on my computer, so that's what I'm looking up. We are constantly processing information, right? So the optic nerve is really far more important in terms of a system-wide processing than what most people will give it credit for. So we are processing around 400 billion bits of information per second, but we're really only aware of about 2,000. So what does that even really mean? It means that we are picking and choosing what we want out of what we see, and from there we construct our realities. So it tells you there's a lot more available than what you are focusing on. So that's number one. Your eyes, really, they're like a camcorder. They take information and then we store it, but it doesn't really mean anything much until you've sort of put it all together. And we do that, we make sense of that basically on past experiences and previous experiences. So how do you really know what is true? So if you are choosing all this information that the brain is receiving, so 400 billion bits of information per second, and you are only selecting 2,000 of the bits of that information at a time, there's a heap that you're not, that you're just casting aside, because remember, we are software programs. And we are going to construct our realities based on what we know. So it's the unknown that scares people, right? So yeah, how do you know what is truth? So there's two sets of laws in the universe. There's the Newtonian's law, which most of us are very familiar with. And then there's the quantum laws, and they are subject to completely different rules than what the Newton's laws are. So for example, particles may be in multiple places at the same time. They may behave as waves, and they may be interconnected over great distances. And they can also be unified into one wave state offered by one wave function, and that's what they call the collapse of the wave function. So this is important as it gets to then, when we get a little bit deeper in terms of how do you create the reality that you choose. So in the quantum world, everything is in superposition. There are multiple possibilities. So this is where the infinite possibilities comes about. And in the physical world, these multiple possibilities will collapse into particular definite choices and show up as your reality, right? And so it's the wave function may collapse, and then that's when we bring into Newton's laws. So everything begins in the quantum realm as infinite multiple possibilities. And as we talk about, you might hear people talking about timelines collapsing. So really there's infinite timelines that exist, and what comes into existence and what comes into reality are the ones that we collapse the wave function on, and then it manifests in the physical realm. So if there's all these infinite possibilities out there that exist, why do we choose the ones that we choose and not the other ones? Because they hold as much possibility as anything else. Who am I seeing out there? Horina, Petey. Hope you guys are well. So we're taught that everything is made of something, that everything is of matter, of mass, of atoms, but atoms make up molecules, and molecules make up materials, and everything is mass. But here's the thing, most of what atoms are is empty space. In fact, if you go to the subatomic level, it's all about energy vortices, so nothing is really anything at all. Boom, right? Always gets me. So, for example, take a basketball. Imagine it is the nucleus of the atom. Okay, so we have the nucleus of the atom, right? The protons and the hydrogen atom, for example. And then you have the electron cloud that circulates that. So this is chemistry basic 101, right? And so the outer limits, if your hydrogen atom, which is teeny, 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 tiny, invisible almost, you need an electron microscope thing to see. So then you have your electron cloud, and if you scaled it to say, well, that atom is a basketball, then the electron cloud would start 20 miles away. So there's that much space. I mean, this is on a completely magnified scale, but you get the idea. There's a heap of space in between the nucleus of the atom and the electron cloud as it begins. So when you scale down in that empty space, you come to the fundamental of space-time geometry, and that's the basement of the universe. That's where the patterns are, that's where the level of the information is stored, like on this teeny tiny little level. But the vacuum is that space is not empty. And here's about what's going to blow you away. So there's a heap of energy within that space. So if you take the vacuum within that single hydrogen atom, which is tiny, so I don't know if you guys are good with maths out there or not, but it's 10 to the minus 23 cubic centimeters, which means it's like ridiculously small. Take the latent energy in that little tiny piece of space, and there's 1 trillion times more energy in that tiny little space than all of the mass of all of the stars and the planets out to 20 billion light years away. Like, that's just massive, and they do know this. And so there's organizations like your British Aerospace and NASA are trying to actually tap into that energy, because if we can, or if they can, that's how then they can harness the power to travel to different galaxies. So that's what's going on out there in the world, just to give you a little bit of a background into the quantum world. So where there's so much focus on the 3D reality, what we can see, however, most of where the potential is, in fact, where all of the potential is in the invisible, in the quantum realm. So that's where we need to be hacking into, which is what I'm going to try and talk you through. How do you get to that? Because there's heaps of energy in there, all right? So there is it's sort of like the underground realm of existence that we can't touch, we can't see, but it gives rise to basically the fabric of the universe, and where infinite possibilities exist. So just coming back to what I said at the very beginning, remember, we are processing 400 billion bits of information at a time, but we're only aware of 2,000. So it just goes to show you how much is actually existing and how little we pay attention to. We're constantly comparing it and running it against scenarios we've experienced, particularly in the first 10 years or so of our life, we are software programs. We're constantly checking things against what we already know. So to create your reality, we've got to get beyond that and to into that space between the subconscious and the conscious, and through the imaginal, and into where time and space don't actually exist, because in the quantum realm, those laws don't apply. Still with me? It's heavy for a Monday morning, isn't it? But something's got to be done. All right, so the core building blocks of the universe, well, it's pure abstract potential. It is what we talk about as the unified field. All right, we are all connected through this unified field. Pure abstract self-aware consciousness arises in the waves of vibration, which gives rise to the particles and people and everything that we see that exists. So on a more simplified sort of understanding of that, everything you see is a vibration. The reason you see me the way I am is it's the orientation and the collection of particles along those waves. Really, we're not really even real. You're a hologram, if you wanted to really kind of get down to the nitty-gritty quantum aspect of it. And then through what you can't see, we are all connected. You know, what makes up things is not things. What we've been taught is not true. And that's coming forward in a lot of things at the moment. Look at your politics, look at your economics, look at the way we approach healthcare, religions as well. There's a lot that's coming to the surface now because humanity is being called to rise. Humanity is being called to ascend. Goodness me, the existence out in the universe are wanting us to ascend, because as we rise in our intelligence, I'm not talking cognitive aspect, I'm talking about our abilities as beings, as we rise, so does the entire cosmos. So what is it then that makes up things? It's ideas, concepts, and information, all right? So for example, if you take that basketball I was talking about a moment ago, if you were to bounce that on the ground, you're going to tell me it touches the ground, and I'm going to argue and dispute that with you. I'm going to say, no. The atoms of the ground and the atoms of the ball never actually meet. Think about the, as I said before, that one teeny tiny hydrogen atom has a vacuum within that space that contains more energy than the mass of all of the stars and the planets beyond 20 billion light years. I mean, can you even conceptualize how far away that is? It's crazy. Hold on a moment, my dog is wanting some attention. And in the quantum realm, as I said before, time is not absolute. Hold on a minute. You want to go out? Okay. Go on then. Out you go. All right, so time is not absolute. In the quantum realm, there is no time, and the law of thermodynamics does not work at this level, which is the fundamental equation of physics has a property called time reversal symmetry. So hang with me here, because it is getting a little technical and a little geeky, right? But time reversal symmetry basically is that, hold on, make sure I'm going to say this right, is that for any process within these laws of the quantum realm, the exact same process going backwards is exactly as much in accord with those laws as what is going forward. So the law of thermodynamics is saying time is always moving forward. However, when you look at the classical physics and you look at non-classical, which is the quantum realm, then those laws don't apply there. This is where time, past, present, and future all exist all simultaneously, because in the quantum realm, the regular laws don't apply. things behave very differently, which is where, as I was mentioning before, there are infinite possibilities or infinite timelines or realities, shall we say, however, what makes sense to you. And that it's through collapsing of those waveforms that it manifests into physical reality. So you can call in and bring in any reality you want. And I'll get to why don't most people do that in a moment, all right? So, so in a way, if you think about that property that I was just talking about for the time reversal symmetry, it's almost a bit like a Benjamin buttoning, for example, that we can reverse. You can, that nothing is impossible, none whatsoever. It's just that we've been put limitations on our belief systems of what is possible. So the future can have a causative effect on the present. Okay, so you can go into a meditative state. You can visualize a reality that hasn't happened yet, and if you spend enough time in that sensation with that thought, remember, thought is the only thing that travels faster than the speed of light. Thought is boom, wicked. So mindful of your thoughts, people, mindful of your thoughts. I'm always catching myself and tripping myself up on the audio script that runs in my head, because those thoughts are sent out. Thoughts are electrics. They are out there in the universe and it is listening. So that you can, as I say, going into these meditative states, go into a reality that you would like and desire to create, and spend time in the sensation of that and of the thought of that, because they know, science knows, the big, military ops know, the CIAs, all of them, they know all of this stuff. They use it all the time, that the future can have a causative effect on the present. Absolutely. And it's only in conscious experience like that we actually move forward in time. But in quantum theory, you can go back in time and you can impact, your past as well. So it's kind of exciting. I'm the more I learn about this through this integrative PhD work, the more my mission is to try and filter it and water it down so that those who have got no concepts of this, and this is very new, that you're able to then bring it in. So there's some suggestion that processes in the brain related to consciousness project backward in time. So go forward to come back into the present to be able to manifest your realities. And there's plenty of studies around that. So what is the reality that we find ourselves in? All right. So quantum physics, the quantum realm, says it's all just waves of information. Yeah. That's all it is. You're a light body. And therefore, you can really tap into that and then take more control consciously of your existence and of the experiences that you are having. Most people, however, are so consumed with the 3D land, with trying to survive. Remember, the system is rigged that way. And so that there's nobody's spending enough time in a state where they are bringing in and calling in the realities they're wanting to exist. Keep people so busy that they can't get into that meditative state is kind of part of the goal, right? So it's another way we can hold people down, especially when they know it works. So you can collapse, you actually collapse the wave function by simply observing. So remember, we talk about wave functions. Everything is in the form of frequencies. Everything is a frequency. And so all of these timelines of realities that exist out there that haven't yet happened, they also exist as well. So how do you bring it into your physical reality? Well, you collapse the wave function. And this is where we talk about being the observer. And so we're always the observer unless you're tripped into fight, flight, and fright. And then you actually can't be the observer because you're trying to just be the survivor. So in order to observe, the alarm systems in your defense software program, shall we say, has to be able to, they have to be switched off. Because if you can't, this is where people getting into a meditative state often don't like it. It bubbles things to the surface. They're not feeling safe. They're getting anxiety is another one, or the mind chatter starts to happen as well. Well, it's because the alarm systems are still on. We need to be able to come into a place of stillness and to be able to access into those deeper levels of consciousness. And you can't do that if you're in fight, flight, fright. So here we are. We're always the observer, but sometimes we identify the event so much so that we lose the aspect of the observer. And that's why the materialist will always get lost because the focus then becomes on what you can see. And so that reinforces your reality because you're stuck in, the materialist aspect of this life. And so therefore you kind of then think you can do without being into the observer of your realm. So an object itself is a simplification of what we call is out there. So particularly when we're looking at subatomic and atomic particles in any form. So what you choose to examine it with actually changes the properties of what we observe to be out there. Now I really find that one gets in a big mind funk, right? So how you choose to observe what you're seeing, and so what does that even mean? It's talking about your state of being. How if you're coming and observing the world from a state of fear, shall we say, then that is what you're going to see when you're observing an object or you're observing a situation. So there is a heap more out there to looking at the dial, and what you choose to view, what you see is going to change things significantly as well. So the world of potentials of reality until, let me say that again. The world is a potential of reality, or it's full of potentials of reality until you choose what it is that you want to observe. And then you collapse it into the one that you want. So how do you do that? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? How do you do it? So your mind is constantly creating multiple possibilities, multiple personalities. Well, that's a whole nother story, isn't it? So your mind is creating multiple possibilities in your subconscious all the time. And the superpositions of possibilities are also in your subconscious. You may be consciously aware of them, but they exist in your subconscious in superposition of multiple possibilities all at once. They're all there. All of these realities that what you want to experience are all there. They all exist. So this is why you need to get very, very, very clear on what it is that you want. So anybody who is in the habit and practice of meditation or manifestation, this is why they always say get very clear on what you want, not wishy-washy, because there are infinite possibilities that exist. And unless you're clear on what you want, you'll get kind of sort of close to maybe and then frustrated because you didn't, this manifestation didn't work, and you're like, it's all a crock of shit. It's like, no, you just weren't clear on what you wanted. Because once you get clear on what you want, after a while, they will collapse into one reality or another. It can't not happen. It's the law of the realm we live in. So project or plan into the future or cast a thought ahead of itself. So as I said just a moment ago, that if you go into these meditative states and you do then cast a thought out into your future, it does have a causative effect on your present. It can't not. It can't. It's the way that the quantum realm works. So there's another concept in quantum laws, and it talks about entanglement. Everything is connected, and if time, everything is touching. So wherever you are, I am, my field is going to be connected with yours through this consciousness, through the fabric of the universe. And so if time reversal symmetry destroys the idea of time, then entanglement crushes our experience of space. Space does not actually exist. We're taught that it exists, but it doesn't. There is no such thing as space, not on a subatomic level. So everything is still touching. So space is just the construct that gives the illusion that there are separate objects, that we are separate. But there's nothing is separate in this world. Everything is connected. So collapse the timeline that you want. And that has to, we need to have time to get clear on what it is that we want. Is it resonating with our soul? Is it the reason that we have come into existence at this point in time? We're all here for a particular reason, right now, this moment in time. And contributing to the rise of humanity is definitely one that I feel more and more people are feeling called to. So I'm going to touch on water and how that's important in terms of being able to collapse the timelines that you are wanting to bring into existence as well. Water is the most receptive out of all of the elements that are available. And I believe this is how we connect with the unified field through our inner world. Because if you think about it, if everything is a vibration, if everything is a frequencies, you know, it's all about energy, electricity, however you want to see it, then the superconductor that we have is water. And so it's almost like an interface between your inner being, your soul frequency, and the unified field. So it's not just about keeping us well hydrated and helping cells in terms of their processes and conductivity and of action potentials and electrical circuits and conductivity through the electrical beings that we are. I do also believe it acts as an interface with the unified field. So, and I'm sure this is why the aliens are so interested in our water, because of the properties that it has. So, there was a study, Japanese man, Mr. Emoto, some will be very familiar with that he conducted. He decided, you know, what affects water and would it respond to non-physical events. So this is a study he did years back. And a series of studies, he applied a mental stimuli to, it was a little bit of water in petri dishes. I think he did about 50 different ones. And then he applied and photographed with a microscope. And so looked at the changes that thoughts had on water alone. So remember, keep in mind, I just said that water is not only good for us from a health perspective, but I do believe it's how the interface between us and the unified field, what you can't see, the invisible realm where infinite possibilities exist. So stick with me here. And so what they determined out of the study is that the thought it's the thought which is the intention that is the driving force that causes effect. Let me say that again. So it's your intention. So everything we do needs to have, what is the intention behind the actions? Intention is far more powerful than the actions, because through thought, we're able to really instantaneously send that signal out to what reality we want to be bringing back in. Most people don't do this. They don't affect their own realities in a consistent, substantial way because they actually don't believe that they can. So that belief system of that, you know, this is it, this is my lot in life, or whatever you observe in the world is just how it is. So there's that belief that needs to be overcome in the first place, that you can change your reality. You can. Absolutely. Whatever and however we observe the world around us is what comes back to us. And so, for instance, it's the reason that sometimes people are so lacking in joy and happiness and fulfillment is because your focus, what you're focusing on, is lacking in that also. So how do you view the world? Your state of being has a significant impact on your ability to create your own reality. So it's all very well and good to have a positive mindset. That's super important, don't get me wrong. However, if the underlying state of being, the vibration is what is signaling out, is lacking in joy, happiness, abundance, that sensation, then what you're sending out into this invisible realm isn't going to be coherent with what your thoughts are as well. So if we are victims, and many people are stuck in a victim state mentality, then, you know, you're continuously then meeting misfortunes and tragedy, shall we say, because of the state of being that we're in. So is your state of being attuned to accepting that life can be different? Because if your belief system is there's nothing I can do, I don't have the power, all of this manifestation stuff is all woo-woo, then, you know what, yeah, sure, you're not going to be able to access this. So most people don't affect their own reality and don't take control of their existence because they don't believe they have any control of it. It is so far from the truth. All right. So lack of focus. Why can't we achieve the things that we desire? Lack of focus. The average person loses focus every 6 to 10 seconds per minute. It's a lot, yeah. And the mind is structured in layers. So really, to be able to get in and manifest these realities, we need to get into a state of a real deeper level of consciousness, because that's where it's in through those finer layers. I've talked of the 5 bodies of consciousness before. There's the physical body, then you have the vital body, which is all of where your energy flow comes from. Then you have your mental, you have your supramental, and the bliss body. It's in those higher levels where the information is stored. And if we can access that, then it's a matter of time before all of those waveforms collapse and those timelines show up. But it takes some practice. You can't just do it once. That didn't work. It needs to be like anything, on a regular basis. And the more you do it, the more you recognize when the synchronicities are coming in, then the faster this starts to kind of generate, right? So the mind is structured in layers, as I said. And if you're wanting to improve your focus, for example, then focus on breath as you're going through meditation, or focus on a flame. So light a candle and focus on the flame, because that's a really nice way of tuning attention. So intention, intending, super powerful to be able to get in and be mindful of and set a state of your intention of what you're trying to achieve. So the first thing I recommend people do, and this is based on a lot of other people's works as well, is that you create joy. Make joy be the first thing that you do every single day. So instead of getting up and getting on your phone, or meme hunting, which is one of my favorite things to do, to create joy, for a state of joy. So take a few minutes, get into a real inward state of being, and create a sensation of joy. So that state of being is sending out those signals right before your day gets started. So we'll often think, well, I've got a list of things to do. It's Monday. There's always a heap of things to do on a Monday. However, the future hasn't even happened yet. The next 5 minutes hasn't even happened. The next half hour, the rest of your day hasn't even happened yet. You have control of that. And by doing so, we switch the dial, is kind of how I look at it. You change the dial on what potentially can come into your realm. Set your intentions, no matter how crazy they might seem. In your mind, what is the reality where you want to create? What is it you want to happen? And stay focused on that, no matter what is happening in the 3D and the external. So as I said, the more you do that, the more you connect a neural network in your brain that these possibilities are possible. A lot of this is based on Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, who is done a lot of he's in the neuroscience aspect, and he's bringing the quantitative data showing that this works. We all create our own realities, whether you believe it or not, which is being mindful of the state of being, be mindful of the thoughts that are running through your head, on that audio script, when you phase out and you're not really paying attention, what's whirring around in the background. Really important to get clear on that, and to then replace that, to change things as you see that if they're not serving you. We talk about that a lot. If it's not serving you, what does that even mean? Well, if it's not beneficial, it's not going to help you. If it's not aligned with your intentions, if it's not aligned with the reality you're wanting to create, then get rid of it. So I'll recap that. We are the observer of our own reality. Multiple realities exist, and one will be the true reality. So which one? Well, here's a little tip. It's the one with the most coherence. So there's a lot of interference patterns that are happening all the time, that we're getting through the field, through what you can't see. There's interference patterns, whether they're coming from somebody else, whether they're coming from ones we're generating and creating. But the more aligned you can get, the more coherent system wins. So can stay focused, stay in align with the reality you're looking to create. And observation has a direct effect on our world. So the subatomic world responds to our observation. So when you recognize the synchronicities coming in, I say it again and again and again, when you recognize them, see them, and it keeps reinforcing then your intentions and what it is you're trying to create. Many are so addicted to the external world that the brain has switched to work out of response instead of creation. Yeah, that's a powerful one, isn't it? We're so addicted to our patterns, our way, our habits of what we've, and again, based on past experiences, we've become so addicted to that, and so addicted to just surviving, that the brain is working in a reactive state, reacting instead of creating. So make some time to design your new life, design it every day, and feed it every day. So in the work that I do, a lot of it is keeping people focused, people that are coming and trying to restore from things that our indoctrinations are. There are no cures, meaning that, well, there's no pill, and there's no surgeries that are going to be able to fix your state of dis-ease. So therefore, this is the best that there is. So not true. So much limitation on that, and only limited to the Newtonian's approach, or Newton's laws approach of the way that things are. That's 4% of the world we live in. So a lot of the work I do is to get in people into the quantum aspect and understanding that, you know, this stuff is real. Yep, it takes a bit to get your head around. No, they haven't really promoted it in a mainstream because they want to keep that information to themselves. As I said before, big military ops, they're all using it. They do the remote viewing. They do work in frequencies. And this is why they've tried to shut it down, because they know how powerful it is. So take some time, create your new life. How is it, no matter what's going on, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Is it restoring from a state of dis-ease, or is it you'd love to manifest an experience, or I don't know, whatever it is that you want to call in? You've got to be clear on what it is that you want. Believe, first of all, that all of this is possible, because it is, and science backs that up. And then focus on the future you. Who is you? Who are you? Because you can't create a new reality based on you now or you in the past. So we need to be clear on that, and then be focused on that and revisit it on a regular basis. And if you get knocked out of alignment, which does happen, that's okay, because then you just bring yourself back. And every time you overcome that, you know, you're wiring these new neural networks. You're rewiring your body's ability to access into the realm. Drink heaps of water. Remember, water is not just about nurturing the physical body. I mean, we're mostly water anyhow. It is the universal solvent. It will help, particularly more alkaline water, so not the shitty water that, you know, most town supplies are on, unfortunately. I have a solution for that coming up also. But also because it's the interface between us and the unified field. So if you're one of these beings, humans, having an experience here, and you do not consume much water, man, you can change your life through that alone. So that's it for me today. How to create your reality, knowing, first of all, that you got to go inwards to and into your future and call it in. The thoughts send the signal out. The biochemistry, the sensation around what it would feel like to be restored, what it would feel like to have your reality come into existence. That's all through the magnetic aspect that the biochemistry of that feeling creates. Thoughts are electric, feelings are magnetic. Thoughts signal the universe, feelings bring it in. Got it? As always, I am always here if you need any help, and yeah, go create your life, feed it every day, and stay in that alignment no matter what's going on. Peace out, much love to you, and I will chit chat, I'm sure, later in the week. Bye.